the home farm today, taking advantage of the heat and a day here at home to try to catch up on some of our to-dos. And the topic today is being creative. I've got a situation here where this is an old horse pasture and hasn't been used in a couple of years now. But the food value in that horse pasture is just crazy. It's got milfoil, trefoil. It's got the goldenrods out there. It's got ragweed. It's got everything in it. But it's old alfalfa, native alfalfa. It's got a whole bunch of pasture mix in there. Timothy grass, all that stuff. And then what you see, what I did here over Labor Day on that redneck food plot deal, if you will. What I did is I just come in and we fertilized that and seeded it in the rye and went all the way around the edge, and it hooks right in on that far side over there on the bank to another licking branch, another stand that we've got, and then this way it goes around to the back side of the pond and hooks onto our other corridor. So in the past we didn't use it because we had horses in the pasture, and this year we don't. And I'm still being here at the house. I'm getting creative, letting the old creative juices flow here. And so what I've done, as I'll show you, is I went and put the pop-up blind right inside of the horse shelter, the abandoned horse shelter, and it's in good shape. But it serves as a great west wind, or a strong south wind stand, but also east wind stand in the morning, west wind stand at night. It's a multiple stand location, and put the pop-up inside of it, brushed it in, used the grass, cut a shooting lane, kind of a tunnel, if you will, shooting lane out, and we hung that right on the post right there. You can see we hung that, one of these cottonwood, these willow whips. Took the biggest one, kind of a multi-branch, hung it on that post right there, wired it on, and we hung it out into the food plot. And this, speaking of food plot, we're not on the food plot. I didn't plant this for a food plot. What I planted this for is to rye, to just keep the deer moving. And there's going to be, nothing else placed in there. We're just going to let the rye grow. I might even throw some more rye on it. But it's a bypass. I know that it's not a brassica. It's more of a shot plot, if you will, where I'm keeping the deer flowing. And in the evening it connects, and then if they want to go to the brassicas, then they go around the end of the pond. There's a channel right that lays in there right behind where the new I always want to call it licking branch, when I hang these, they're mock scrapes. The tunnel goes here and they go out and around it, and they connect right to our brassica food plot. Now if I wanted to keep them here, obviously this would be more of a hold plot, if you will, destination. Once they go past us, they go out to the brassicas. If two of us are hunting here, I'll get out of the stand in the back. We have another south wind stand on the back side of the property, and get in the truck and come down here and pull right up to the back side of that shelter. And if my son's in there, pick him up, or if he's out back, vice versa. And then that way the deer, if there is anything, they get bumped off by the truck and they don't know we're there, and it just continues to be a bypass. Now, I hung that there. I did open the mock scrape up underneath it, I'll show you. And the last creative piece that we're going to talk about here is this right here is a perfect example. This right here connects to the other corridor, but obviously there's a building here. I'll show you right in the background. It's our old horse barn, but it's abandoned now. And these deer follow this edge. Now that the brush has grown up in the fence line, this is just a natural. That's why I put that, field in there, or planted that rye just along the edge and weaved it along the edge there, just to give them structure, and all that stuff from last year is all rubbed up. The moral of the story here is, guys, is being the last piece of being creative. Now we were creative with putting the blind inside of the horse shelter. The biggest deer I ever killed in the state of Illinois, I was inside of an old abandoned horse shelter, had my boots off, snuck to the other end of it. Boards were missing on the end. He walked through a gate opening, and it was the most memorable hunt I've ever had, especially in the state of Illinois. So we're going to do that same thing here. We're going to open this gate. I thought about taking the fence down, but as you can see, just stopping for 10 seconds, kind of surveying the situation that you have. I'm going to open that gate, and there's a kind of a chute, if you will, that goes around the back side of the barn that follows the pond. I don't want to block that off, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely take this gate off, and I'm just going to go set it in the barn, or alongside the barn, and that's going to open this up, and that just completes the transition. This barn's not being used down here. There's no critters in there banging around. Last night, I can obviously see this from the house. Had a bunch of does walk right through here. In the past, my nephew shot a doe. Si shot his doe last year. My nephew shot a doe a couple years ago out of there, off the hill down in this location. So they've used it for years, but it's just taking a step back, being creative, looking at things that make sense. And like I said, this is one. The other one's putting that blind in the horse shelter. And it was like, after I set it up in there, I looked out the window. I was like, I know there was horses in there for the last couple of years, but boy, I'd love to have that horse shelter been sitting in there. I've told the boys that since I put that there, I thought this thing's going to turn into a deer blind, and it did. So you can tell where my priorities are in life, I guess. But anyway, that mock scrape is there now, overhanging. That is kind of a, I'm using it as a buck only. It's not our licking branches. So I have one here. I've got one on the other side on the driveway stand. I've got another one up behind the house on the water hole. I've got another one here in the octagon, and it just completes this 360 degree on 12 acres. And it can be done. Just step back, be creative, take things that, from the last couple of years that, we couldn't do before, we can do now. And, if I was keeping this piece, I would just keep adding on to it. It's been like I mentioned in the past, guys, it's been a kind of a set aside place for us because it was a hobby farm before. We had all the hogs and we had the horses, and it's pretty much just went back to brush now, if you will. And now I'm kind of making the most of it here with the for the deer season. But that's going to be an awesome early season doe burner stand. That scrape there is gonna, I guarantee you, I'm gonna end up putting a trail camera on that thing here soon, just the other side of it, because I can walk right here to the barn, reach right over right onto one of these posts to grab the cards. Not going to be bumping anything out. And this is going to be one of those spots that obviously this is a later in the morning, because it's not first thing in the morning, or later in the evening because it's further away from a bedding area. So it's just one of those stands we're just gonna kind of let cook, and like I said, maybe early season burn a couple does out of it, and then let it sit. And around that Halloween time, if we're still here, which the property is for sale, but if we are still here, then maybe one of us will end up getting lucky here. We got a bunch of mature bucks on camera this year. So yeah, so we're gonna let that run. I just wanted to touch base with that, guys. This is a 12-foot gate, 10 or 12 foot. I wouldn't go any narrower than that. But like I said, they will go through. This is that rope electric horse fence, 3 strands of it. They will go through it. They jump it all the time now. They weave through it. But if that gate's open and it's right in line with the end of that, field now, that rye field comes down, hooks right to the rest of the property that goes around the backside of the barn. It's untouched, all rubbed up from last year. It's just one of those things. You just line it up. It makes perfect sense. Put it there. The blinds over here on the side, looking at the scrape. Bypass, they're not looking at the blind when they're coming to it. They're, the blind's off to the side, and the deer are heading east and west, going right past it, coming past it. There's no reason to be peeking in there, and I think it's just going to be one of those spots. Be creative, let your creative juices flow, and we still got time to do this stuff the last week here before the season.